Gros Morne, Canada's UNESCO park nobody talks about. Every year, millions of people drive across Canada to see Banff, Jasper, and the Rockies, and almost none of them realize that their cameras have missed something fundamental: a park where you can walk across the Earth's mantle. Gros Morne National Park sits in Newfoundland, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and one of the most geologically important landscapes on the planet. Yet the crowds bypass it entirely, because the thing that makes it extraordinary, plate tectonics exposed at the surface, is invisible at first glance. Most parks are defined by what they look like. Gros Morne is defined by what it is, which is why almost no one who stands there understands what they are looking at. The geology. Why here? Nowhere on Earth can you walk on the planet's mantle, except here. That olivine-rich rock beneath your feet, peridotite, technically, should be 15 to 20 kilometers down, under crushing pressure and temperatures that would melt most stone. Instead, Gros Morne, it sits at ground level. You can touch it, kick it, walk across miles of it. The reason is buried 300 million years back. An ancient ocean collision forced oceanic crust and sections of the planetary mantle upward onto continental land, a process called abduction that happens once every few geological epochs on Earth. Gros Morne is one of the only places where this is still visible, still exposed, still open to observation. The abduction process that lifted the mantle here occurs only once every 100 to 200 million years on a continental scale, making Gros Morne one of 5 major abduction sites on Earth where this is still accessible without drilling. The collision that caused it involved the closure of the Iapetus Ocean, an ancient seaway that once separated what is now North America from Europe. The result is hostile terrain. The chemistry is wrong for plants. Vegetation thins and thickens erratically. The color shifts from dark rust to pale orange depending on mineral concentration and weathering. It looks alien because, technically, it is. You are standing on planetary architecture that should exist only in theory. And that makes it one of the most significant geological sites on the planet. Not because it is rare, but because it is readable. The Paradox Lake, Western Brook Pond, is the most photographed location in the park. The visual structure is exact: steep walls, clear glacial carving, the geometry of a fjord. It looks like the North Atlantic just inland, but it stopped being the Atlantic roughly 10,000 years ago. When the glaciers retreated, they left a strip of land between the valley and the ocean. Salt water drained, fresh water accumulated. What the ice carved as a fjord became a landlocked lake. So the contradiction is precise. It has the shape of a tidal system, but operates as an isolated freshwater basin. No tides, no ocean current exchange, no saline gradient. The structure of a fjord without the function, and that structural difference changes the entire ecology underneath. Which means what you are looking at is not geography, but history. A system paused mid-transition, caught between what it was and what it will become. Western Brook Pond measures 9 kilometers long and over 150 meters deep, deep enough that temperature stratification creates distinct thermal layers, with the bottom remaining near freezing year-round, even as surface waters warm in summer. The fjord-shaped walls are 600 meters tall at their highest point, creating visual drama that is frequently misunderstood because the system functions entirely independently of the Atlantic only 2 kilometers away across a sand barrier. The Tablelands. The defining feature is the Tablelands, a 600 square kilometer expanse of bare, rust-colored rock at the park's center. It is the exposed mantle, and it makes Gros Morne unique on the planet. Most terrestrial geology is a palimpsest, layer upon layer, each one telling a story of a different era. Gros Morne has that too. But it also has a cross-section, a window into the deep structure of the Earth that normally requires a drilling rig, an ocean research vessel, and hundreds of millions of dollars to access. Here you can drive to the edge and walk out onto it. The rock does not behave like surface geology. Vegetation refuses to grow in dense patterns, Because the mineral composition is too different, there are no established root systems, no fungal networks that recognize it as hospitable. The weathering patterns are unfamiliar. Water moves differently through it. It has been at the surface long enough to oxidize, creating that distinctive orange patina, but not long enough to develop the stability of true continental crust. What you are looking at is not a landscape. It is a geological artifact, a moment in planetary architecture captured and exposed. The tablelands cover roughly 600 square kilometers and represent what would normally exist 10 to 20 kilometers underground. Samples of peridotite from this site have been studied in laboratories worldwide because they offer a rare direct sample of the planetary mantle. The color variations, rust, orange, pale yellow, deep gray, correspond to different mineral ratios and oxidation states, creating a geological map of deep earth composition visible from the surface. Why no one sees it? Gros Morne is a UNESCO World Heritage Site for geology, not for scenery, which creates a problem. Geology does not photograph. Fjords do. Waterfalls do. Turquoise lakes do. The structure of the earth, revealed at the surface, does not read as obviously beautiful from a distance. So most visitors see the coastal beauty, the real fjords, the actual waterfalls, and assume that is the significance. They experience the park as scenic, take their photographs, and leave without registering that they have been standing on one of the rarest geological exposures on the planet. This is not a flaw in the park. It is a flaw in how we recognize significance. We are trained to value what is immediately visually striking. But sometimes the most important things look ordinary or even hostile until you know what you are looking at. Once you understand that the tablelands is the mantle, once you know that abduction happens once every 100 million years, once you register that you are walking on planetary architecture that should be buried 15 kilometers down, then the park transforms. UNESCO recognition came in 1987, specifically for the geological story, not the scenery. The heritage designation explicitly cites the abduction geology and mantle exposure as the reason for protection. Yet the park's visitor marketing emphasizes fjords, waterfalls, and hiking trails. The disconnect between why the park is protected and why people visit it is near complete. The shifting boundary. While the tablelands represent 300 million years of stability, the coast represents processes unfolding now. The Atlantic is actively eroding the cliffs. Wave action breaks the rock. Storms accelerate the process. Sediment is redistributed along the shoreline, altering the boundary between land and water continuously. The coastline visible today is not the coastline that will exist in 50 years. This creates a fascinating contrast within the same park. The interior shows planetary architecture from the Paleozoic. The edges show real-time weathering and change. Ancient formation and present-day transformation occurring in the same landscape. Most parks preserve a moment. Gros Morne preserves a process, which means it is always changing, always becoming something different. Gros Morne National Park is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but not because it is beautiful. It is recognized because it explains how continents form, how oceans close, how the interior of the planet can be lifted to the surface and exposed to weather and time. Most visitors will see the fjords and the waterfalls. The landscape is genuinely striking. But they will miss the reason the park was designated protected in the first place. They will stand on the tablelands, walking across the Earth's mantle at ground level, and see only orange rock and sparse vegetation. Which means what makes this park extraordinary is not what is visible. It is what lies beneath the visibility. And whether you encounter the actual significance depends entirely on whether you arrive with the question, what am I looking at? Not, how does it look? And that shift in perspective changes everything. If this changed how you see Gros Morne, the guide linked in the description goes further. It covers the abduction geology that shaped the tablelands, the coastal erosion processes happening right now, the Western Brook Pond freshwater system, and the roots that reveal what most visitors miss. Just click the link below to get started.